This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So, in the last few classes, we have seen how to create the entity uh, manually, and we have created the properties manually, and we implemented all the steps. Okay, and as part of that, we have discussed different query options. Okay, dollar filter. Okay, dollar top. Okay, order by class. All those things. Okay. Now let us see another example. So the change I want to do is in the earlier scenario, we have created the entity and its property manually. Okay, means we have created the properties one by one. Now I want to create the entity importing from what a DDIC structure. Okay, I repeat, I'll create the entity importing from DDIC structure, and another change I want to do is I'll create that entity with multiple key properties. Okay, in the earlier scenario we have only one key property. Now I'll create the entity with multiple key properties. Okay, so I'll go to SCGW, done. So this is the project which we created earlier. So let me click on create project. I'll give the project name as something z cust underscore project, some project name. Okay, I'll provide some description. Customer entity with multiple keys. I'll save it in the local object. Done. Okay, so this is the project. Under that, we have what data model. So earlier we created the entity what manually. We right click on the entity type and we said what create. Now what is the change I want to do? I want to create the entity by importing from a data dictionary structure. So see the change here. Okay, right. I'll right click on the data model. Right click on the data model. I'll say import DDIC structure. Okay, so I'm trying to create the entity importing from a DDIC structure. Excuse me, still I'm having throat pain, so just bear with my voice. So I click on the data model, say what import DDIC structure. Import DDIC structure. So when I click on this, import DDIC structure, it is asking provide the entity name. I'll give the entity name. So we have entity type and the complex type. Ignore this complex type for the time being. By default, we are trying to create the entity type. You can give any entity name. Let me give it as something customer. Okay, so I'll give the entity name as customer. That is asking the import from ABAP structure. Okay, so I need to import from a dictionary structure. It can be a database table, it can be a database view, or it can be a structure. It can be anything. So I'll give the structure name as something KN1. Okay, structure name is KN1, and let me create the entity set also along with what entity. Okay, so provide some user defined entity name, provide the user defined entity name, and provide the dictionary structure name. So I give the dictionary structure name is what KN1. I'll say next. Yeah, it is showing me what all the fields. It is showing the fields of what KN1 structure. So we need to select the required fields. Okay, we need to select the required fields. I want only few fields. Let me select customer number, land one, customer number, land one, name one, and city. Okay, so four fields I'm selecting: customer number, land one, name one, and what ORT 01. Four fields I'm selecting. Done. Okay, done. One second. Done. So I selected what four columns: customer number, land one, name one, and what warranty 0. So I'll say next. Say next. So you can see this is my entity name, customer. Okay, and what are your field names? Customer number, land one, name one, and warranty 01. So already we know every entity should contain what minimum one key property. So I'll select customer number and what land one. Okay, so technically we have to take only customer number, but wantedly just we're trying to understand how to work with the entity with multiple key properties. So I'm selecting two fields as what key properties. What are the customer number and what land one. Done. I'll say finish. So in the is key column, you have to select that particular checkboxes. So finish. Done. So entity type is imported successfully. So this is the entity name customer, and this entity has got what four properties: customer number, land one, name one, and what warranty 0. Then the next step, as usual, we know. Let me check for the syntax error. I'm selecting the syntax error. Generate the runtime artifacts. Okay, so there are all the different runtime artifacts. Say continue. I'll save it in the local. Yeah, it has generated the runtime artifacts. Okay, so if you observe here, under the node runtime artifacts, there are all the runtime objects, runtime artifacts. Done. So my requirement is, as usual, under service implementation, under your entity set, we will have what five steps. We have five steps. Okay, so you need to implement the appropriate step. So as of now, I'm concerned only with what reading the data. So first, let me implement get entity. So when do we go for implementing get entity? If you want to read a specific record, if you want to read a particular record, then we'll go for a get entity. If you want to read multiple records, we have to go for a get entity set. So as of now, let me go for this. I want to query what single record. So I'll go to ABAP workbench. The method so and so has not yet been implemented. Continue. It takes the control to what data provider extension class. As part of this data provider extension class, if you scroll down, so what is the method I need to implement? Customer set underscore get underscore what entity. So as usual, I'll open this class in editable mode. Select that particular method. Select that method and click on what runtime artifacts. Okay, select that particular method. Sorry, select that particular method and click on what redefine button so that we can redefine the method. Done. Okay, so these are all the existing code. I'm not interested with this at this stage. I'll just remove it. Now we need to write the logic. Okay, we need to write the logic. So in the earlier scenario, we have implemented all the five steps. Okay, and in that case what you are doing, we are having the dedicated function modules like bappy underscore epm underscore product underscore get and get underscore list, create, change, and what delete, create, change, and what delete. So here here what is the requirement? I want to get the data from what k-level table. Okay, I want to get the data based on what key fields. What are the key properties in my entity? There are two key properties. What are they? Customer number and what landware. Customer number and landware. So we know already know what is the parameter which carries that particular input value. So we have the parameter what it underscore key underscore tab. This is the importing parameter. It is an internal table. Why they gave it as an internal table? Because our entity might contain what multiple key properties. So keeping that in mind, they gave it as what internal table. It is not compulsory that your entity should contain only one key property. We can have any number of what key properties. So all the key property names and their values are populated to this particular internal table parameter IT underscore key underscore tab. And already we know the structure of this. It contains two fields, name and what value. If I double click on this, this is the structure, right? It contains two fields, name and what value. So I need to what read the key property values, which is sent through what URL. So what I'll do is here, what is the parameter which you have to read? IT underscore key underscore tab. So let me read the data. So somewhere here I'll say read the what key property values sent to sent through what request URL. Done. So since I know that I'm going to pass two key properties, so I'll say LV underscore Kunal type what KNO hyphen customer number. I'll take another parameter LV underscore land one type KNO hyphen what land one KNO hyphen land one. Done. Then what is the internal table which carries the input values? IT underscore key underscore what tab. So let me declare that. I'll say W underscore key underscore tab like line of what IT underscore sorry IT underscore key underscore tab. Right. So I declared a two variables and I declared one internal table. So let me say clear W underscore key underscore tab. And let me read the data. So it's an internal table. Na? So I'll use the read statement. Read table IT underscore read table IT underscore key underscore tab into what is the work area declared W underscore key underscore tab okay with key name equal to what is the first key property name customer number. Customer number KL map. Okay, I'm interested in the value, so it's a transporting value. Understood? So already we know this internal table contains two fields, name and what value. Name and value. That's the reason I'm transporting the value. Done. If size of RC equal to 0, if this read is successful, okay, if this read is successful, I will read the customer number. I will say clear LV underscore what customer number. Okay, then I'll say LV underscore customer number equal to what is the work area? W underscore key underscore tab hyphen what value. Done. And if let me cross check. So I'm reading the first key property value into a local variable LV underscore Kunal. Let me repeat this process. I'll repeat this process for the second parameter, second input parameter with the key name equal to what is the second key property in our entity land one transporting value. Then here I'll say LV underscore what land one LV underscore land one and here also LV underscore land one. So I'll get the data into this particular local variable. That's it. Okay, so understood. So before we implement this method, we must understand the signature of our entity. Our entity contains two key properties. Two key properties. So while querying for the record, I'll pass the value forward both the key properties. Keeping that signature in mind, I implemented my business log. First, I'm reading the first key property value. Then I'm reading the second key property. The rest of thing is simple. So in the earlier case, we are having the function models. We are calling the particular function model. So here, I'll manually try to get the data. So I'll select single. What are the fields you want? Our entity contains how many fields? Customer number, land one, name one, and city. So select single customer number, land one, name one, ORT01 from KN1 into this is important. Just try to understand this. How many fields I am retrieving? Four fields. So already we know in case of querying single record, what are the data you want to return, that you have to assign it to which parameter? ER underscore what? Entity. Understood? We have export parameter ER underscore entity. But if you see this ER underscore entity, it is of type in the model provider class. It is referring to types structure. Let me double click on this. TS underscore customer. If I click on this, yeah, you can see TS underscore customer is type what? KN1. Understood? Even though our entity contains only four properties, customer number, land one, name one, and ORT01, but I created that entity importing from the DDIC structure. Now. We have created the entity importing from what? DDIC structure. Okay, that's the reason it is referring to the old DDIC structure. So since I'm retrieving only four fields, since I'm retrieving only four fields and your return field contains what? Referring to what? Complete KNA1 table. What I have to do from KNA1, I'll say into corresponding fields of what is that ER underscore what? Entity. ER underscore entity where customer number equal to what is that values? LV underscore Kunnar and land one equal to LV underscore land one. That's all. So I'm just writing the select query. Let me execute this. No errors. I'll put the breakpoint. Activate the data provider extension class. Regenerate the runtime artifacts. Right. So I've regenerated the runtime artifacts. Let me maintain the service. So since this is the first time, I need to register the service with the gateway client. I need to register the service with the gateway client. So I click on my system ID and so what? Register. So, understood. So this is the service with this name. It will be registered with the gateway client. I'll save it in the local object. Continue. Done. Let me maintain it. Right. So this is the service. I will click on SAP Gateway Client. Done. So before I execute this, let me go to KNA1 table and let me check whether I'm having the data or not. Yeah, here I have only 298 entries. Let me display the first 200 records. Yeah, this is my customer numbers. Okay, so I'll try to pass one value. I'll pass this 1000010. Okay, done. Then what is the land one? India. Huh? Okay. So here I'll say, yeah, understood. So what is the first thing you have to do before we start consuming the service? Okay, we need to check the metadata of the service. Okay, so what I'll do as part of this query option, I'll try to use what dollar metadata. Execute. It will display the information related to our service. According to this information, you can see this is the entity. What is the entity name? Customer is the entity. It has got how many properties? Two key properties: customer number and landowner. Customer number and landowner. Customer number is of type string, and landowner is also of type what string. We are referring to KN1 Kunana. So what is the length? 10 and what 3. So this is information related to our entity. Okay, so done. Customer set. Okay, so I'm interested to retrieve what? I'm interested to retrieve a specific record. So what I'll do, I have to check. If you remember the earlier scenarios, in the earlier scenarios, try to understand. Since we had only one key properties, directly we are giving the product ID name like this we used to give in the earlier scenarios. So the tool will have the intelligence that it has to consider this value for which property, key property. But in this context, our entity contains what two properties. So I need to manually specify the property names. So I'll say customer number equal to what is the value 1000010. This is my one property. Then what is the next property? Land one. Land one equal to I'll give something what India. That's all. Understood. So if you have so the thing you have to focus here is if you have only one key property in the entity, I need not specify the property name. Directly in the parentheses, we need to provide the value. But if you have multiple key properties, we must specify the property name and what property value. And if you want to specify multiple properties, we have to separate with what comma. So let me check whether this works or not. Execute. Done. It is stopping there. So if you see IT underscore key underscore tab, it has got two entries. So if you see this, what is that? The name of the first property is Kunnar, and that is the value 1000010. Land one is what? India. Done. So I'm trying to read. I'm trying to read. So when I say F5, read is successful. Size of ours is what? 0. Okay, I'm trying to assign it to what? Customer number. LV underscore Kunnar is what? 10. Done. I'm reading the other entry. Yeah, I'll come to that point, Rajendra. I'll come to that point. Land one, F5. Land one is how much? India. Customer number is 10. 1000010. Land one is what? India. I'm trying to get the data from what? KN1 table into what? ER underscore entity. So this is my ER underscore entity. When I say F5, size of ours is what? 4. Size of ours is what? 4. Understood? Means my select is what? Failed. My select is failed. But what is the tag here? 1000010 and this is India. We have the entry related to that customer now. If you go to Canada table, yes, we are having the entry. But my selection is failed. Can anyone tell me what is the where is the issue? Why the select is failed? So when I say F8 here, when I say F8, I got the error 404. Resource not found for the segment what customer. So what could be the error? Anyone?
हेलो सर।
Yeah, tell me.
सर आपको क्या है कि 40 आपको ऐड करना पड़ेगा कस्टमर
Ah,
नंबर।
correct. So
18
here,
zeros.
customer number is what? Character of what? 10. Okay, so we are directly giving what? 1000010. But in the table, it is maintained as what? 00010. So if you go to K11 table, right?
I
So if I
think
execute
we
this,
need to use the function model conversion existing.
correct. I have to use that particular function model to prefix that particular leading zeros depending on the width. So I can use that function model or else let me go back to my implementation. Yeah, one small adjustment I'll do. Here I'll say somewhere here. I can use that function model whenever we know. I'll say unpack. Unpack. LV underscore Kunnar to what? LV underscore Kunnar. Instead of using the function model, I'm using what? Unpack function. Unpack is a string function, built-in string function. So I've activated that. Let me execute, save it, activate. I'm generating the runtime artifacts. Right? So let me maintain it. Done. So I'll just provide that customer set. Yeah, here I'll say customer number. What is the property name? Customer number equal to what is that value I'll give? Yeah, I'll try to give the same value. It's a character value, no? Sorry. It's a character field, no? So customer number equal to what? 1000010. I'm passing I'm passing value only for what? One field. What is that field? Customer number. But my entity, what is the signature? It has got two key properties, but I'm trying to pass the value only for what? One key property. Let's see whether it will recognize that or not. So when I execute, hello, hello, good. What is saying here? The request URI contains an invalid key predicate. The request URI contains an invalid key predicate. I'll do one thing. Instead of passing customer number, I'll pass what? Land one. Land one equal to, I'll say something India. I'll say India. Okay, so when I execute, again I got the similar, what is that? Request URI contains an invalid key predicate. So what is the understanding? Compulsory, you must pass the values for what? All the key fields. You must pass the values for all the key fields. That's the reason before we start consuming the service, we have to get the information of the service by using the query option what dollar metadata that will return with the information related to your service. What are the key property names? What is the data type of those properties? All those things. I'll do one more change here. I'll say customer number equal to one double zero 10. How to separate the fields? By using what? Comma. Okay, so customer number equal to 1000010 comma land one equal to India. Then execute this. Right. So what is that? Invalid key name. Invalid key name in key predicate. Invalid key name in key predicate. Expected name is what? Expected name is what? KU and NAR. So I don't know. Someone asked me in the last scenarios. The property names are also case sensitive. Not only the values, the property names are also case sensitive. That is the reason we have to refer to a dollar metadata to understand the field names, to understand the data types, to understand the key properties, all those things. Okay. So I'll just pass what customer number equal to so and so. Done. Execute this. Sorry. It is going to that method. So this is the internal table which is reading that input values. It has got two entries. What are the two entries? Customer number is so and so, land only got India. Done. So I'm trying to read it now. Okay, so if you see LV Kunnar, what is the LV Kunnar I got? 1000010. I'm using what? Unpack function. You can understand unpack function is similar to that particular function model. Okay, so let me say F5. What is the function model? Conversion underscore exit underscore alpha underscore input, I think. Okay, all right. So I'll say F5. Then you can see here it has prefixed. It has prefixed how many zeros? Three zeros because the length of this kunnar is what? Character of what? 10. Then I'm reading my second property value LV underscore land1 equal to so and so. What is the land one I got? India. I'm trying to read my select query. I'm trying to read the data using select query. I'm getting into my return return parameter. What is that? ER underscore entity. So when I say F5, then size of our is what? 0. Means select is successfully executed. So if you see ER underscore entity, I got the values for these four fields: customer number, land one, name one, and what? ORT 0. So I'll get the required result. So when I say hello, I got 200. I got the customer number, land one, name one, and what city. So what is the understanding? Compulsorily, you have to pass a value for what? All the key properties. Then we don't have any option like to make them as optional. By default, they are what? Mandatory. Always they are what? Mandatory. Okay, and even the property names are also what? Case sensitive. Right? Rajendra, hope it's clear. Any questions so far?
But
Please
I,
ask.
I think I think if we are holding 10 key values, then we have to supposed to provide 10 key values. I
Yes,
hope
compulsory, compulsory, mandatory.
compulsory. Yes,
Yes,
mandatory.
I
Yes.
cannot, I cannot
Thank
ignore.
you.
That's the reason. That's the reason SAP has given the query option dollar metadata. Means as a front
Yes.
end developer, or as a back end developer, as a back end developer, we are going to test it. So before we start testing, I should know the information about the service. So I have to use dollar metadata or assume that we are what front end developers. Even if you want to consume it from the front end application, I must know the information about the service. That is done by using what dollar metadata.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Acha. How to avoid this corresponding fields here? Anyone? How to avoid corresponding fields in the implementation? Generally, it is recommended not to use what? Corresponding fields. But here I am forced to use corresponding fields. How to avoid this? Anyone? How to avoid these corresponding fields in the select query? Because anyone?
Capture in a sequence way.
Yeah,
Fields.
it's a sequence only, na Rajendra. I
Yes.
captured the same sequence, customer number, same sequence. But ER underscore entity is referring to what? K11.
Entity. KNA1, right?
K11. It has got more fields. We have MA entity
More.
field. Yeah, in between we have name too also. So how to avoid
Yes.
this?
Uh, we can take that type of KNA1, then we can copy that ER entity of this one is equal to whatever the type of four fields which is we are taking the structure.
Correct. So what we are trying to say is you want to declare me a local types declaration with only four fields. Okay, and try
Yeah.
to populate that into that particular local types declaration, then manually assign it to what? ER underscore entity. Yes,
Yeah, since it is a sequence, it will come directly in one statement.
correct. Okay, so what I'll do is just to avoid this select statement, just to avoid this corresponding fields, or the another solution is when you are creating this entity, we are importing from the DDIC structure what K11. Don't import it from K11. You try to create one database structure in SC11. You create the database structure with how many fields? Four fields, the required fields, and then try to import that data model from that particular user-defined structure, which has got only what four fields. Then I can avoid what corresponding fields in my select query. Okay, or else the other solution is generally it is recommended not to create too many database objects. So in some of the projects, they may not allow us to create too many database objects. So in that case, you go for what? Creating a local structure. So here what I'll do, one second. Yeah, I'll create a local structure. I'm declaring the required fields. I'm declaring the work area based on that. I'm selecting the required fields. And customer number equal to LV underscore customer number and land one equal to LV underscore land one. If size of arts is equal to 0, okay, so I can say move corresponding. But again, it is recommended not to use what move corresponding, because move corresponding will only check for what field names. It will not check for the data types. If the data types are not type compatible, there is a possibility that it may lead to a runtime error. Okay, so instead of using move corresponding, I'll assign it manually. So what is the return work area? ER underscore what entity. So here ER underscore entity hyphen customer number equal to W underscore customer hyphen Kunnar. ER underscore entity hyphen land one, and then what name one ORT 01 name one, and this is ORT 0. That's it. And that's it. This is the adjustment that I need to do. Logic for avoiding what corresponding fields in what select query. Right, so it's a simple thing. I'm getting the data into a local work area, then I'm assigning it to the return type. That's it. I'll regenerate the runtime artifacts. Maintain this thing. Right, customer set in the parentheses. The property names are also case sensitive. Customer number equal to what? Land one equal to something India. Done. And I execute this. Right, so this is my select query. I'm trying to this is my read statement. I'm trying to get the data into LV underscore Kunnar and LV underscore land one. Okay, I got the data. So if you see LV Kunnar, it is so and so, and LV land one is what so and so. Done. And this is my local work area which I declared. So I'm gonna say F5. Done. I got the data into my 4 fields. Customer number, land one, name one, and what is 0. If my select is successful, size of ours is 0. Inside this, I'm manually assigning it to my return type. Customer number, and this is land one, name one, and what so and so. Then I got the data. So we are avoiding what corresponding fields in our select one. There is only adjustment. Then I got the data. Now let me quickly implement the other method. What is that? get entity set. I'll say go to ADAPT workbench. This is for querying what? Multiple records. This is for querying multiple records. So what is the method I need to implement? Customer set underscore get underscore what? Entity set. So I'll try to redefine this method. Okay, so here simple logic. Here what is the requirement? I want to pull all the records. So what is the return parameter which will carry the data? Already we know what is that? Et underscore entity set. It's a exporting parameter is referring to what? Internal table. Again, this tt underscore customer, tt underscore customer, it is referring to what? Ts underscore customer, and that ts underscore customer is a what type? KNA1 type. So when I click on that, so type standard table of ts underscore customer, ts underscore type of KNA1. So here also I have to use what? Corresponding fields. If you don't want to use, again the same story. You declare an internal table, declare a local internal table with the 4 fields, get the data into the loop that internal table and manually assign it to the return parameter. So here that logic you can write it. So select customer number. I want to do a small change here. Select customer number land1 name1 ort01 from what? KN1 from KN1 so into corresponding fields of table. Understand, if you want to avoid corresponding fields, similar kind of logic you are doing. Declare a local internal table, get the data into that local internal table, loop that local internal table into work area. As part of that loop and loop, assign it to this particular internal table. What is that internal table? Et underscore entity set. Et underscore entity set. So into table, et underscore entity set. Done. That's all. Into corresponding fields of so and so. Okay, done. Okay, that's all. Nothing different here. So, but here only let me cover the other point. Okay, done. I'll just go back. Right. Generate the runtime artifacts. Done. Let me maintain the service. Done. Entity sets. Customer set. So here I'm not passing any input values. So the tool will have the intelligence that it has to execute which stuff get entity set. In the get entity set corresponding method, we have written the logic to get the complete data from KNN table and assign it to the return internal table. So when I execute, I'll get the data. So I'll get all the 296 records. I think we are having what 296 records. So I got the data. So this is the first record, second record, like this. We are getting the data of what all the customers. Okay, done. Now here I'll choose dollar count. I'll choose dollar count. Execute this. We have not written any implementation for dollar count. So the implementation for this is already implemented by SAP itself. So when I execute that, what is that? I got 298 records. So might be it has got 298 records. Yes, 298 records. So my requirement now is I want the data as well as the count. Understood? I want the data as well as it has to return me the count also. It has to return me the data as well as the count value also. Okay. So let me check whether I can implement here 298. Done. So what is the requirement? I want both the data as well as the count value. So what I'll do is observe here as part of this implementation. Yeah, in this implementation Okay, I will get the data into that. So I'll say if size of R equal to 0 means what? At least one record is returned. If size of R equal to 0, and if so, I want the data as well as the count. No? Okay. Okay. Done. I'll go to the signature. Why like this? And 1 second, please. I'm not writing any logic inside that if blocked. I'll keep it as it is only. Done. Go back. And let me check in a different way. Let me check whether I really require the implementation or not. Okay, done. Now here I'll maintain the service. Yeah, if I stop, if I leave it like this, it will return me only the data, right? Now, if I choose dollar count, what happened? What happens? I'll get only the count value. This anyway we know, right? We are getting only the count value. I'll do one thing. Instead of count here, instead of using count here, I will say, yeah, question mark dollar. It's coming automatically. Okay, I will not do anything here. I'll just remove this. I'm keeping see here. What I did first, I selected what entity set. That's all. Then here only I'll choose what dollar in count inline count equal to all pages. So automatically I'm getting that question mark here. Don't worry about it. So I'm trying to use a query option called as dollar inline count. Let me try to execute this. Let's see what happens. Good. Let's see what happens. What happened here? See, again I got only what data, na? Yes, I got only the data. Let me go to the bottom. Yeah, I got only the data here. Okay, so I want the data as well as the count value. So what I'll do is in this method, if size of r is equal to 0, size of r is equal to 0, already I think we have seen this parameter. What is the parameter? Yeah, we have seen this parameter earlier. IO underscore tech underscore request underscore context. IO underscore tech underscore request underscore context. It is of type what? It is an object of what? An interface. It is an object of an interface. If I double click on this interface, yeah, this interface has got many methods. I think already we have seen this get order by, get filter. Okay, like this we have many methods. Okay, get top. Okay, as part of this only you can see there is an instance method of what as underscore inline count, as underscore inline count. What is the description here? Inline count system query option dollar inline count as underscore inline count. What is the signature of this method? If I go to the parameters, it returns me the boolean. It returns me either true or what false. Good. So what I'll do is this is the interface. What is the parameter as underscore inline count? What is the parameter name? IO underscore tech underscore request underscore content. So what I'll do is if what is the parameter object name IO underscore tech underscore IO underscore tech underscore request underscore context. Okay, what is the method in that? This time we are saying as underscore what? Inline count. As underscore inline count is equal to what? Wrap underscore true. Wrap underscore true. Okay, if it is above underscore true, means if you are passing that query option what? Inline count. I'm getting another area. ABAP underscore true. What I have to do? I have to return the number of records. So what is the internal table? ET underscore entity set. So here I'll say describe table ET underscore what? Entity set ET underscore entity set lines. Yeah, you can see here there is a parameter here. What is the parameter? Exporting parameter. What is it? ES underscore response underscore context. ES underscore response underscore context. It is of type what? It is of type interface so and so. In this, if you double click on this, okay, it is of type so and so. Let me double click on this. Done. Yeah, you can see here in this we have one of the field. What is that field here? Inline count. In this structure, there is a field called as what? Inline count. Inline count. Okay, so what I'll do is, what is the parameter name? ES underscore response underscore context. So I'll say ES underscore what? Response underscore context hyphen what is the field just now we have seen inline count. So let me check whether I'll get the count value also or not. Inline count, that's all. Let me save it, check for the syntax here. Maybe I have to give one space here. I1 underscore tech underscore request underscore context is unknown. Why was I1 underscore y implies was it's a arrow operator, no? We have instance method, so we have to use arrow operator. Save it, check it, done, activate. If it is a static method, I have to use implies. But this as inline count is an instance method. How do we access instance method? By using the object followed by arrow operator. Done, I have activated that. I'll put the breakpoint there. Done. I have regenerated the runtime artifacts. Let me execute this. Okay, so here I'll say right click on the maintain gateway client, right? Entity sets. If I leave it like this will return me only the data. So along with this, I will use a query option called as $inline count equal to all pages. So when I execute, done, it is going there, right? So when I say F5, I got how many records? 298 records. And if you see this method as inline count, okay, it might have returned true. Now understand it is returning true value because we are passing that as inline count option. Okay, now I'm trying to read. Okay, so what is this value here? This field is as if nothing is here. I'll say F5. Done. Let me check this. Good. Inline count is what? 298. I'm assigning it inline count. So when I say F8, let me check what is the result I get. Good. You can see here. Observe here. What is the count value I got? 298. Very clear. I got the count value as 298. So I got the count value as well as what? The data. That's all. So earlier I didn't have that. Okay, so 290. I'll do one thing. I'll remove this. Okay, I'm just passing that. See what happens. So if you see this, I'm getting the data. Done. So I'm not passing any inline option now. So since I'm not passing, if condition is failed because as inline count is returning me false because we are not passing that. So when I say fail, let's see what happens. Good. I got the what result, but I got only the data. I didn't got the particular count value. That's all. Understood? As inline count. What is the purpose of that? It is going to return the count value along with the data. Along with the data. Dollar count will only return the count. It will not return with the data. That's all. Is it clear to everyone? Okay, so far we are dealing with only one entity. So tomorrow onwards we will see how to deal with what? Multiple entities. Multiple entities. And probably in case uh, if I go to Institute tomorrow, before starting that multiple entities, I'll show you how to consume this in your front-end application. Okay, so I don't have Eclipse on this system. I need to go to the Institute. Okay, tomorrow I may go or I may not go. Okay, if I don't go to Institute, I'll directly discuss what navigation between entities. In case if I go to Institute, we'll see how to consume this OData service in our front-end application. So just to give an idea how it looks. Okay, right? And I've shared all the material and the recordings till day before yesterday. Earlier yesterday, I have not taken the class. Hope everyone is able to open that recordings. Right? So I'll wind off for today then. We'll continue tomorrow. Any questions? Chalo then. So I'm winding off. We'll continue tomorrow.